Narcissists always leave tiny traces that become red flags about their behavior, and in this case, Meghan has left a not so small one with her Arsewives podcast. Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and the clue is this one. Is Meghan really speaking with the guests on her podcast? Journalist thank producer for interview. This is the kind of clues that at first sight you're gonna say like, well, this is no big deal, right? But that's the thing with narcissists. You cannot discard those tiny contradictions, tiny details that will ring your alarms just a little. I was talking about this yesterday, that Meghan's Arsewives podcast is going stale because it doesn't sound genuine. It's something that lacks. It's just an echo chamber between her and her guests. And that conversation doesn't leave you anything to say, hey, I enjoyed this or learned something or anything. Because if it was a real organic conversation, well, you could lead that somewhere. But we also have to remember that not everyone is made for a podcast. So you can start doing some kind of interviews, but going the long game is really difficult, as Joe Rogan was commenting on these days too, about all the celebrities that start podcasts but fail to be able to do it for a long period of time, which is the idea. But that is too much work, and I think Meghan is trying to, cut some corners in here and not in the best way. And what you are about to see will give you a solid insight into the mind of narcissists. Proof Meghan doesn't speak to all her podcast guests. Journalist who appear on Archetypes thanks production company employee for being an excellent interviewer. Alison Yarrow from New York was on Archetypes episode To Be or Not to Be. Instagram post shows her thanking a producer for being an excellent interview. I can understand that people can be busy, and that's why you have a production company and you have a production team that help you with every single part of the production of your podcast. And I can understand that at some point by editing, clips of journalists speaking had been edited alongside comments from Meghan. Well, it's not that much of a stretch. We are not judge a person for just trying to edit a conversation, so it seems that the person was really there because that was not actually the point of the podcast. It's not like you are announcing that you're speaking to this person in person and you're doing otherwise. But this, in fact, gives us an insight about Meghan's personality. Because this is her project. This is the way that she's bringing awareness to women, remember? But for any podcaster that cares about their audience, one should be able to give solid conclusions or ideas or paraphrasing or be able to give a bird's eye view of the topic that you're talking about with your guest. Because you're leading the conversation and you're inviting other experts to add their own 2 cents to the topic. So Meghan, in this case, should work as a crossroads between all these opinions and all these ideas and etc., right? That is not that far-fetched. If you want to give the best possible content for your audience, then you need to have a good understanding of everything about that topic, or at least being able to ask interesting questions. But if in this case Alison Yarrow had an interesting thing to say, but you send another person to ask a list of questions, then there is no conversation. Because in a real conversation, even if it's pre-recorded, you are able to listen and, hey, I have this question. I have a list of questions, but I'm gonna improvise this question because this is important. I realized during the conversation that this is more important than the rest of the questions that I have here. I realized during the conversation that I have a more important question or more relevant question than the ones that I have on this list. Because you know what? That is how conversations work in real life. But one thing about narcissists is that they don't like to follow rules of conversations. They want to talk about themselves. That is not a conversation. And one tip that I'm going to give you about, these personalities that can be so annoying sometimes is this. Be wary when you're talking to them, you're talking about something that matters to you, or you're talking about one personal anecdote, or you're talking about any topic, and when you pause or you're finished your idea, the thing that comes out of their mouth has nothing to do with what you just said. It means that they were not paying attention to you. They were just waiting for you to finish, because they are all educated. They are not gonna interrupt you, but they're waiting for you to finish so they can finally benefit you, grace you with their knowledge and their experience and whatever they have to say about the topic. In fact, even if you are telling them, let's say that you are talking about a road trip that you made, and then they answer, oh yeah, I made a similar road trip too, but it was bigger and it was longer and it was, that came out wrong. But you get the idea. They don't ask questions about your anecdote. They just want you to hear about their anecdote, or they change the topic completely. So you're going to tell me that the only job that Meghan has on this podcast is being the crossroads, the interviewer, the one that asks the questions to get to a consensus, to a conclusion, to something that her audience can use, because she wants to empower women with this content, right? But then you are telling me that she doesn't bother to interview personally people that she's inviting to her podcast to give their opinion. She is missing out on the opportunity to have a conversation with them. And in that conversation, more ideas spark and the more richer the content. But guess what? Meghan doesn't care about that content, because she has shown that episode after episode. They sound and feel artificial. The first episode of Arsewives was quite good, the one with Serena Williams about the ambitious women. Production quality was quite good, and the topic, applied to virtually every single woman, because every woman deserves the right to be ambitious. But in every single episode, it looks like the protagonist of the episode, instead of being the guest who has the topics, who has the ideas, who has these anecdotes, who has the personal experience to share with the audience, it's in the end all about Meghan. And that defeats the purpose, and that's why it has stalled, and that's why it is dropping down the charts. Now, notice how something that is so simple as wanting guests to your podcast. Now, notice how something that is so simple, like not bothering to interview one guest to your podcast, maybe not the main guest, but it's a person that has an idea or has something to give to your podcast, then you realize that Meghan is not interested in giving value. Is not interested in developing these ideas on her mind so she can bring the conversation together. Because that's what podcasts are about. Podcasts are not just an interview. Podcasts are a juggling of ideas, so at the end you feel fulfilled because you heard some anecdotes, you heard some ideas, you heard some, solid insights on a topic that matters to you, and you say, wow, I can't wait until next week. Who will be the next guest? What are they going to talk about? I've said this many times. I want Meghan to succeed, but her narcissism, her personality, her desire to be the protagonist, her desire to control everything so everything can be focused on her is gonna be her downfall, and it's showing. Meghan, this could be much better if you stop pretending. Being genuine can be terrifying. I know it for a fact, but you can do it. Everyone can do it. It's terrifying. Yes, I know for a fact that it is. But I also know that you're not gonna listen to me, right? We both know it. We have shared these insights many times. That is not only body language, there's also listening to people, the words they say, what they don't do, what they do, and how they do it. And in the end, being able to reach a conclusion that, this person is this way, has this personality, has this character, and maybe you will decide if it's worth it to spend time with them or not. My body language buddies, remember to download my 100 body language tips right in the description of this video. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. Much love and bless.